A law student?
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Randy Bach, and I'm the president of the Newton Taxpayers Association. You should be a member of the Newton Taxpayers Association. How can you find us? We're on Facebook at, get this, Newton Taxpayers Association. And we're not Newton, Iowa, Newton, Minnesota. This is Newton, Massachusetts, where you are most likely listening to this. And I'm honored today to have on my show a second-year law student and all-around great guy, Peter Klapes, who comes from the Texas of Newton. That's our little inside joke. It's kind of the southern piece of Texas, and maybe it's a little bit redder politically, as we might call it these days, than others. And he is proposing something that I think all of us need to know about. And Peter, tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you on our show today.
Well, thanks so much, Randy. Thanks for having me. It's great to see you again. I'm indeed in the Texas of Newton. That's Ward 8, as we proudly call ourselves. In many of us in Ward 8 call ourselves the Texas of Newton. We're a bit different from the rest of Newton. We've got a lot of woods, a lot of long, wide roads, and it's a great place. But Newton all around is a great place. I'm the co-founder and co-director, along with Jeremy Freudberg, who's the president of the Newton Highlands Area Council. I'm the co-founder and co-director of the Repeal Newton Overnight Parking Ban campaign. And what we're all about is we're about repealing the overnight parking ban in Newton, the wintertime parking ban in the city of Newton on any street, whether you live in the Texas of Newton or any other part of Newton. You cannot park on the street overnight for more than 1 hour between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m.
So I probably live in the Ohio of Newton. I think it's a little bit kind of mid-central north section, kind of between Nonantum and Waltham, and a little bit of Newtonville north, near Fessenden and whatnot. Anyway, that's my little neck of the woods. And you know, there are going to be a lot of questions about that. I mean, people have something they get used to, and then they, I think, essentially always absorb it and think it's the only way to go. Like if you ask people what their favorite music is, it's always the music they had when they were, say, 16 years old. You can ask them when they're 50, that's the music they go to. So we always have things that we favor because that's what it was. It doesn't mean it's better necessarily, the music when I was 16 versus when are you going to be 16? Soon?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm sure there are going to be a lot of reasons why, because it's there, it has to stay there. So one right off the top of my head, what about a midnight snowstorm? The streets are going to have cars on it. You're going to have this irregular plowing. It's going to look like the North End. Tell me.
Well, the ordinance comes from the I think it was the mid-1930s, when the ordinance was passed by the Board of Aldermen at the time, and it was an all-year parking ban, all-year overnight parking ban, and it was because we didn't have street lights here in Newton. And so, you know, the park lights that you have in the car, that's for those days back when we didn't have street lights and people had cars and people wanted to park. You'd leave them on overnight. It's a low drain on the battery, so you'd leave them on overnight, and you know, people wouldn't hit your car. And I think it was a couple decades later they reduced it. We got street lights, and they made it a wintertime ban for exactly the things that you're talking about, Randy. The midnight snowstorm, the last-minute snowstorm that we don't know about. It's 2025. We've got reverse 911. We've got ways to get people to move their cars if there is going to be a snowstorm that in pretty much every case these days we're going to know about in advance. We have, Doppler forecasting or whatever the heck we have, to kind of know when it's going to snow. And we're not touching the ordinance. That is a separate ordinance that makes it punishable by tow.
Oh, I thought it was death.
If people, well,
I thought it was death.
Maybe it should
keep
be.
My cars off the street.
In the event of a snow emergency, punishable by tow, no question. And they do indeed tow. They tow, Randy.
Yeah.
They tow. But $25 ticket when it's not snowing just doesn't make sense. We don't have those snowstorms that we can't really predict, and we don't. We're not as remote as we were.
All right. So what's the propulsive reason to move this? I mean, I get it. It's there. You don't like it. no offense, but why go to the trouble?
Well-
why make signs?
Well,
why waste pixels or internets?
Well, I can tell you it's a lot more than just me and Jeremy that are behind this and that are interested in this. We got over 10,000 signatures
Wow.
in order to put this question on the municipal ballot. We will be on the ballot in November. This November we will be on the ballot, and it'll be a yes or no vote to repeal the parking ban. Now, why are people behind us? Why are people vehemently in support of what we're doing? We're getting donations daily. We're getting, we have drive around Newton and you'll see yard signs in people's yard. There are several reasons. First and foremost, it's an inconvenience. It's a quality of life issue here in the city of Newton. People need cars. We don't live downtown. We live in a suburb. People need cars. People need cars to get to work, to get to school, to transport groceries. A lot of us don't live within walking distance of a grocery store and whatnot, and we need cars. And a lot of people in Newton don't have the parking for those cars, whether they be renters in small with small driveways or with no driveway. Whether that be sort of like my own situation, whether that be an intergenerational housing sort of situation. We've got kind of 3 generations of folks living together, and we all have cars, and we can't really block each other in, and we just don't have enough parking.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I have a linear driveway, and fortunately I have, the last decade or so, I have a snowblower. I used to just kind of go out there and do it. It was good exercise and whatnot. But that one winter, I guess about 10 years ago, that didn't quite break us, but we were happy thereupon to have a snowblower. Anyway, but when we do put the cars, once the street's cleaned, and it'll stay like that for days. Usually the snowstorm doesn't follow precisely on another snowstorm. You have like a week or something like that. Everything kind of gets cleared up. There's lots of room. You can put your cars back out on the street and theoretically overnight as well. But you have to kind of stack them in. And we've been encouraged to, kind of have more density in Newton. So there are going to be more, in-law apartments or secondary apartments, whatever. And so whatever driveway you have is not necessarily going to be enough. And even if it is enough, it's stacking. That means, so if car A is the most embedded and B and C showed up afterwards, have to move around, but A wants to go out and do something. He has to kind of wake up B and C.
Yep.
And it's like,
it's valeting cars is what we call it. You're valeting cars. And a lot of Newton houses have exactly those 1-lane driveways, like you say, Randy. And it's the valeting cars. It's not just Newton residents. It is all Newton residents, but I have a neighbor who has an overnight health aid. The health aid has gotten dozens of tickets. They give no exemptions. They very rarely give exemptions. It's very hard
my
to
wife
get exemptions.
totally steers me off overnight health aids. She said, stop doing that.
She wants in the nursing home. No.
That was a joke. That was a joke, everybody.
It's the only parking and traffic ordinance in the general orders of the Newton Police Department that the Newton Police are mandated to enforce.
Wow.
Everything else is up to their discretion.
Really?
This they must enforce, and they do enforce it. They can't hit every car every night, but they do enforce it. People do get tickets.
Yeah. Now we have, I'm not going to mention who, my wife, who might every now and then disobey. It's hard to believe.
I know Lynn.
I know, and we run such a perfectly strict household. Of
course.
But it's convenient for her to park outside. She's working. She wants to get out, whatever. She doesn't want to be blocked in, and wherever the cars may happen to wind in. We have adult sons, and right now one's kind of staying with us, whatever. But whatever the situation happens to be, if she's going to get up early, 6, 7 a.m. and be off to work, avoid traffic, and it's like, we're all going to juggle for that, or she has to get 3 sets of keys and move things around.
Exactly.
Why do that?
Exactly.
And again, if it's snowing, your point,
Right.
we have good premonitory signs these days.
Exactly.
And we get all kinds of alerts and what. Like, nobody doesn't know this.
Exactly, and we have laws for that. And look, Lynn gets to park out front, but there are some people who actually get ticketed often. They're on a busy street, for example, and they get ticketed every night. And what they have to do is they have to apply for a permit to the Newton Police Department, and they have to get sort of apply for a permit to park in a municipal parking lot that could be up to 2 miles, I think, is from people's homes, and they have to walk. I mean, I don't even have a municipal parking lot near my house, and that's kind of the only way around it, and it's not. It's a real burden on everyday Newton residents.
So I'm a little bit confused, I have to say.
Yep.
I know you're a second-year law student, yet you care about people. Have you thought about that?
I care about Newton people. I'm a born and raised. And
but have you thought about the professional mismatch here, caring about people and their liberties and rights, and being a lawyer?
Well, that's exactly why I'm a lawyer.
That was
all about.
I try to let the line out. You can reel it in.
It's all about protecting our liberties and protecting our rights as people.
I got one lawyer joke. I'm sorry. I'm the son of a lawyer. My brother's a lawyer. My brother-in-law is a lawyer. I got a lot of lawyers in the family, but the 2 kids in the playground. What does your dad do? It's like, my dad's a fireman. He says, oh my God, that's amazing. What does your dad do? He's an attorney. Honest? No, just the regular kind.
That's great.
Do they cover that in law school?
That's great. I think it'll be next year.
They should have just a separate course just in attorney jokes.
Absolutely.
Because I think all the best jokes are attorney jokes.
Absolutely.
But so where is this taking you? You brought some other props. What do we have else going here?
Sure. So we're starting to pick up. We're starting to pick up into campaign season here. So we've got some.
Could I get a free tote bag?
Well, Randy, this is yours. No, it's free, and I brought it for you, by the way, and I've got a couple extra for the crew.
I will want to donate once I have this, right?
Well, that'll be the.
I will feel a certain amount of
enticement, but Randy, that's
I will feel
yours.
some guilt, and I will have to go to repealparkingban.org. It's cleverly named, and not only that, but I got to say, I got to compliment you on this. The signs.
Thank you.
They are bisignual.
That's right.
They work both ways.
That's right.
And I'm not sure about upside down. We're going to probably abjure that, but this is going to be an awesome thing. Will I be able to have one of these on my lawn?
Absolutely.
When will I be able to start having one on my lawn?
It starts now. There's
no overnight ban.
No overnight ban on the
having my sign.
There used to be. There used to be. You could only have it in front of your house for, I forget, X number of weeks before the election, and you had to take it down 48 hours after the election. Nothing.
Am I going to have to move? Am I going to have to move my Greenland, Panama, Canada, and Ukraine flags so people can see this?
This goes first.
Okay.
This goes first.
All right.
You can keep those.
And what's that little thing you got there?
And this is another way that we're campaigning, and this was a way that we collected signatures back in 2023 when we were collecting signatures. That's a fake ticket. That's a fake parking ticket. So what we do, we've got a big team, young people, old people. We've got everybody from all sides of the political spectrum working for us and volunteering actually for the campaign. And we all go around late at night and leave those in windshields.
All right, so try to get, in the last half of the show, I want to actually try to be serious a little bit.
Sure.
It's not easy for me.
I know. I'm a Facebook friend of yours. I know.
Yeah. So, but I'm comedically disabled, so this is a totally another thing. But what are, say, the political aspects of this? Why would this be a better city and a better place, and whom would it be helping most to, how would we say, repeal the parking ban?
Well, the residents first and foremost. It's all about quality of life. This is a quality of life issue. And just to rebut for a moment, there are more people who it'll benefit, and I'll go through that in a second, but just to rebut, I will admit, there are indeed people who, there are streets in Newton that are narrow streets that deserve parking regulations. We've heard from folks on these narrow streets. I agree with them. They require parking regulations. I think they deserve more than just the overnight parking ban that restricts you from parking overnight for 3 hours, 4 months a year. It's a matter of kind of talking about fit and what's right for the city. A blanket ban on every street. We have almost 300 linear miles of street in Newton. I don't think that every linear mile deserves this parking ban.
Right.
But there are some streets that deserve more. And this is actually an impediment. I've spoken to people, city councilors and people on the traffic council and things like that. This is an impediment to the traffic council considering what exactly different neighborhoods need and deserve. They say, well, they've got the overnight parking ban. That's sufficient. That's all they need. They need more. And I'm happy. I've promised the folks that are concerned about their narrow streets, and I'm concerned about it too. And I've promised those individuals that we're not going anywhere. Like I said to you earlier, I'm born and raised, and I'll be here for a long time.
That's because you don't even have an accent.
Yeah, I know, huh? They beat it out of me in law school. And Jeremy is the same as me.
No, he's
We're
a great
going to be
guy.
here for a long time.
I got to meet you both. I mean, I've met you a few times, but I got to meet him recently. And you know, Freud in German means joy, and so it's a joy to meet both of you. Jeremy Freudberg, right?
Freudberg, that's right.
That means joyful place, basically.
Well, that's what he's trying to make Newton.
That would be a great name for Newton.
To make Newton.
That'd be a great name for Newton. You know, Newton is literally the home of the fig Newton.
Right.
You know, it's people may not know this, but Napoli means Newton in Italian. It's Neapolitan.
Of course.
It means the new town, and polis is a town.
That's right.
And so Napoli and Newton are the same thing. So we could get a little of the joie de vivre, which is not Italian, but I forget what the Italian phrase is, la dolce vita fare niente or something like that. We could bring that to Newton.
That's right.
Have a little bit more relaxation about what we're doing.
That's
right. But again, getting back to kind of the brass tacks, hopefully not on the street, but the brass tacks part of this, say demographically, who are the people who've been most enthusiastic about signing your petition? You must have had to go out a little bit and get feedback and whatnot. Some of it may be online or whatever, but who are the people most enthusiastic about this, and how would it change the city? I mean, I'm going to put a devil's advocacy argument out for a second. So we have this parking ban, so it enforces that houses will be kind of sufficient enough and big enough to have some off-street parking in order to prohibit maximization, if that's a word, maximal, whatever the word is, putting too many people in the house, making every house into a boarding house. So we don't want to turn into, I don't know, no offense to Brockton or something like that. We don't want to turn into Brockton, whatever. So we want to have kind of this garden city aspect. We want to keep the essence of the city.
Right.
Now, will this be one more, I don't know, nail in whatever the analogy would be? Would this be further down the primrose path towards ruining the city?
You know, I don't think we're gonna see a single change in terms of the city. You sound like some of the city councilors, most of the city councilors.
Well, I said devil's.
That's right.
Argument.
Very good.
Yes.
Very good. And most of the city councilors are just like you, Randy, with that devil's advocate, hyperactive imagination, because we've heard everything. We've heard that the parking ban is good because it disincentivizes, and the city council wants to keep it by and large because it disincentivizes car ownership. They want Newton residents living car-free and car-light lifestyles. They want us all living in the 15-minute city, I assume.
Yeah, or the 15th century, either one.
You've heard of it, yeah, of course. Certainly heard of that. And you know, they want us riding bicycles to the grocery store, and you know, it's a real impediment.
No, it's a nice
on
thing.
Our liberty.
I mean, I spent one of the winters of our discontent, to quote Dickens, in Florida, like during COVID, maybe 2021 or something like that, and we're all masked up here and whatnot, and huddled over and not looking at each other. And in Florida, which is God's waiting room, of course, older demographic, people were happy and they're moving around. You're like this. That's right. But I felt a Massachusetts rage at seeing people smiling on the streets.
God forbid.
This is a terrible, terrible thing.
God forbid.
And we should never let this happen.
God forbid.
Yeah, we need to kind of maintain our
our roots, huh?
Yeah.
I had a city councilor who shall remain nameless. I had a city councilor. I said, look, this is a quality of life issue. I said, I have friends who are city councilors and state reps all across the state. And I said, this is a quality of life issue. I don't know why you wouldn't just automatically support this. And he said, quality of life rolls off the back of my back, rolls off of me like water off of a duck's back.
Right.
That's who we have as elected officials here
So
in Newton.
it's
And I like a lot of them, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's a
but,
funny
you know,
thing. I'm going to bring out this quick story.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's quick. Jeff Speck, which is his actual name. He's vying with me for short names. I'm winning. Just put it out there by one letter so far. And I don't know if he's catching up or not. But he wrote The Road Diet, and it was a Newton Needham Chamber of Commerce, or Needham Newton.
Right.
Maybe 6 years ago, something like that. And I don't know why I was there, but I was. And I bought his book so I could get to talk to him. There's a huge line to talk to this guy. He's kind of famous, and the thing's called the Road Diet.
Yeah.
What's the Road Diet? It's the shrinking of our streets, by lines and whatnot, so that everyone kind of, there's bike lanes, nice. But a lot of times busy streets, we also have this thing. I don't know if you've heard this thing called winter.
Yeah.
We don't have bicycles in the winter really,
Right.
but we still have the bike lanes, and we still have everyone kind of like elephants in the circus, like lined up. So I mentioned to him, I said this effect, like I think it's on Center Street right near Mount Alvernia, whatever. I go through that a fair amount, and you just can't, based on the traffic that's there a good part of the day, you can't get through in one light cycle, because it used to be that you'd line up in two lanes and one lane would go off this way or whatever, and the light, and people have more choices, but everyone's all lined up, and so the people who want to make left, they wind up at the front of the line, and everyone's sitting behind them. And I said, to the point, I said, you've made this road diet and shrunk all the lanes, but what's happening is you're getting more gasoline pollution, if that's the case, if that's what you're worried about, because everyone's idling. We're sitting 2 or 3 light cycles instead of one.
Yeah.
And he said, well, you know what, the gasoline part doesn't bother me because I want people to feel pain. I'm paraphrasing, but I want them to have enough pain so they stop having cars. I said, you do realize that having cars is how people get their commerce, how they get their work, their property, their chattel, and how they get ahead so that they have enough money so you can paint lines on the streets and whatnot. But he's like, I want them just to have no cars, which is nice if you're in, like, I don't know, Bruges, Belgium, or Ghent, or Paris or whatever, but it may not work because last time I checked, this is not downtown, even Boston.
That's right.
And even a good part of Boston, you're going to want to have a car anyway.
That's right. Well, and it's not the sunny island of Ikaria in Greece where they all walk everywhere and they live till 130 or whatever they do over there, right? I mean, it's what, you can walk maybe five days a year to your destination. I mean, it's just doesn't make sense. But that's exactly what they want. They keep the policy in line. And I spoke to a friend of mine who's an attorney at the Cato Institute, and he said to me, this law has no rational basis. It's a violation of your liberty. They are taking away your rights with no government interest, there's no rational basis for it, other than inflicting pain, as you say, Randy, on the residents and visitors of Newton. And that's exactly what they're doing. And it affects businesses too, by the way. I say residents and visitors, but it affects businesses. You have a guest overnight, you can't bring them out to breakfast and at Johnny's Luncheonette because you told them, hey, look, move, go home because you can't park, right? It's tough. And people can't, come to Newton, right? I mean, people can't, own cars, fewer people able to, as you say, work in Newton, fewer people able to.
So I'm going to do another devil's argument for you. Which is, okay, so get rid of the ban. Is that going to have people just kind of parking their SUVs or their RVs or whatever on the street for 6 months at a time, 8 months, whatever? I assume there's some separate statute to answer my own question.
There certainly is, and there are ordinances on the books that restrict the number of commercial vehicles you can have even on your own property. There are certain statutes that prohibit the you can't abandon cars. There's an abandoned car ordinance here in Newton. You can't abandon a car on the street for, I don't know, I think it's more than 3 days, perhaps, something like that. Again, there are other ordinances that are going to prevent what some of our opponents, and so far most people actually, again, we've got over 10,000 signatures, so but some of our opponents again are concerned about the abandoned car and whatnot. But it's just it's not going to change. People have the cars that they need. Nobody's going to go out and buy a $30,000 car or an $80,000 RV just because they have the right to park on the street. I mean, they're not going to, Newton's not going to change radically as a result of this.
There's still going to be vagrancy laws and
That's
abandonment
right.
laws. All that stuff doesn't cease
Doesn't
to
change.
exist.
That's
And
right.
frankly, we do have the repeal of the overnight parking ban, but just for the non-winter months already.
We have it. And I'll add, Randy, we had it for a year during COVID. The mayor temporarily.
What's this COVID thing you speak of?
When the fact that our cars could be parked on the street for a year, the mayor said that's okay. That's okay. In 2021, we don't need the parking ban anymore. We can park on the street.
Yeah.
And we had it then. We had snow that year for sure, and more people were home, because they weren't allowed to go to work and whatnot. And we had cars parked on the street, and there wasn't a big change here in Newton. And again, people in Newton need cars. Nobody's going to buy an RV. Justice Sotomayor, in a recent Supreme Court case that came out, I think, this past spring, or maybe 2 springs ago, about civil asset forfeiture. Two people had their cars taken away in a civil asset forfeiture situation, and I forget what state they were in. And the Supreme Court, the majority held in favor of the civil asset forfeiture and the possession of the car by the prosecuting authority. But Sotomayor wrote in her dissent that I think it was something like, and she cited statistics and had this great, very well-written dissent, and I don't say that often about, about certain Supreme Court justices, but I was very impressed. She did all this research about the fact that on average, something like 85% of Americans rely on their cars. Whether that be, again, to get to work, to get to school, we need it. Even if it's going to cause, even if there are going to be a couple of extra cars on the street, I think that the benefits outweigh the risks. And by the way, it has a traffic calming. I'll give one little anecdote from when we were collecting signatures. I was collecting signatures in a neighborhood, and there was one guy on the street who wouldn't sign. We were door knocking, and I said, "Oh, why would you not like to sign?" He said, "Well, my neighbor over there he has kids who live at home or something, college students who live at home with him." And he said they have something like 5-6 cars, and they park them all over the street. And he said between the months of April and December, when they're allowed to park on the street, I have to drive carefully in the morning to avoid hitting their car.
Yeah, it's a tough life.
I mean, it really is.
It's a tough life when you have
really
to
is.
Avoid hitting cars.
It really is. It really is.
So we just have a couple minutes left. So this is a hypothetical question. We're going to point out that you can find us up here, Newton Taxpayers Association, on Facebook, and you should join us and send us money and whatnot. You should probably also send repealparkingban.org some money, and I will.
Thank you,
but
Randy.
what would be, let's say this passes, what's your next foray? Or even your 5A?
Well, Randy, first and foremost, I've got to do good on my promise to the Newton residents who I've said I'm going to keep an eye on those tight streets in Newton. If we pass and there's a tight street in Newton that, just needs more than this, my door is going to be open to those residents, and I'm going to help as much as I can. I've had the privilege of meeting a lot of people in high places in Newton throughout this campaign, and I'm happy to put those connections to use in that sort of near term. And I know that I speak for Jeremy in that as well for that next project. And Randy, again, like I said, this is my place. Newton's my place. I'm not going anywhere, and I would love to. It would be an honor to serve the residents of Newton in many other ways, hopefully down the line.
Well, thank you so much. So that's Peter Clapes, and he's a second-year law student, and someday he'll be a lawyer. So you're going to want to find him, and if you see this years from now, hopefully he's out there. And you can if you need to get lawyered up, you're going to be able to contact him. Hopefully he sticks around in Newton because I think it's a real benefit. And I've really enjoyed speaking with you. Thank you so much, Peter, for coming on.
Thank you, Randy. Thanks for having me.
So repeal parkingban.org and Newton Taxpayers. That's us. So thank you so much. Take care, everybody, and tune in soon.